Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Sunday chat today is probably going to be quite short. I often say that. The orchid bit, today I'm going to have a chat about the nobile type Dendrobiums. To do that I've got to get mine out and we'll take the camera off the tripod and get them set up on the workbench. So that's going to happen at the end. And basically what's triggered this really is just the fact that the weather's turning. It's becoming obvious now. We're not far off 11 hours day length. Now, as I've said before, in the UK, day length is not what your orchids are getting. They get about an hour less than that because of the half an hour each end it takes. You know, day length is based on sunrise to sunset, as we all know. As the sun rises, it's not up to full brightness. It takes another half an hour. Same when it starts to set, sunset, you're already losing your light. So, you know, an 11-hour day length on, on a chart is really about 10 hours of useful daylight. Well, orchids will already be reacting to that. So if the only light your orchids get is daylight here in the UK or similar, then they're already going to start reacting and slowing down because they're not getting sufficient light. Most of our tropical orchids come from areas where the day length is between 11 and 13 hours. And it doesn't vary outside of that. You know, down on the equator, the day length hardly changes at all, really. Between 11 and 13 hours, you wouldn't even notice, would you? But obviously in the UK, we get much longer days through the summer growing season, which can be useful. But unfortunately, those nice long days don't start at the beginning of the growing season. At the beginning of our growing season, the day length's still too short. So is it really the growing season? You see what I mean? Until you get a good, I'd say 12 hours of usable daylight, that's when your orchids really start moving, yeah? And you can look that up when that happens, and it's not the beginning of March, that's for sure. Right, so orchids will be slowing down, and the ones that most people seem to worry about the most, quiet in there. The ones that people seem to worry about most, and it's probably because it's the Dendrobium. If most people have only got one Dendrobium, it's probably a nobile type hybrid. It's as simple as that. They are the most common Dendrobium that people might have because they're mass produced and they're sold alongside the Phalaenopsis and the Oncidium type intergenerics. Any shop, sales, retail outlet that sells some orchids has normally got some of those. Yeah. So we'll have a look at taking them out of the growing season and putting them into their rest period to the best of your ability. If you grow under artificial lights, the day length is under your control. So I'm not talking to you people because it's down to you what you do. Yeah, you can keep them growing all year round if you like. That probably means you won't get such good blooming, but you'll probably get some. It's a hybrid, they're normally okay. But we'll have a look at the things, and you have to bear in mind now, I actually have a species. I have the Dendrobium nobile species. Okay, it's a variety, a named variety, but it is the species. It's on a mount. And I can't remember which one it is, I'll have to go and look it up. I can't remember, I haven't got tags on them, I don't think. I'll sort it out. I'll have to shut down and get the plants out anyway, so yeah. But my nobile species is a kiki, so there's no point in resting it. If it wants to grow, I'll let it grow. I don't think it is, I think it's finished for the season. But in future years, that will be subject to far more precise environmental controls, or it just won't bloom. or you know, you get 1 or 2 blooms on it. It's hardly worth having then if you're not going to get a good show. So we'll do that at the end. I've still got my thermostat set to 16 degrees out here, which means it goes down to 15, and then the heater brings it up to 17, and it averages 16 basically. And very soon I'll be taking that down 1 degree, and then eventually I'll be taking it down. I'm going to have my thermostat set to 13 degrees for our winter period, so you know, from sort of into the start of November through to the end of February we'll be doing 13 degrees in here. And a lot of the reason is that I'm not going to attempt to spend loads of money on heating this place through the winter. Now, night temperatures are where it drops the lowest. The heater will do its job and maintain 13, so it will drop to 12, come up to 14, average 13. That's where it's going to get set. The door stays shut most of the time because I want the rather expensive heat to heat the house in the house. In the spring and the autumn I can afford to let some heat out, like now the door's open. I got the house warm first thing this morning. I can afford to let some of that heat out into here. So we've managed to, we're up to 19 now, so that's like free heat, yeah? And I can spare it from indoors, so it's not costing me any extra. That's the way I look at it. And the cost is going to kick in now. My contract, energy contract, comes to an end soon, I think. Yeah, sometime in October, I think. No, it's going to be December. Of course it is. I moved in December, so that's when my contract would have started. So my contract comes to an end in December, and I'll need a new one. Now, last year when I took on a fixed contract, I got a loyalty bonus that was well worth having, so they reduced my rates as a loyalty thing for staying with them. As we get towards December, I'll have a look round, see what's on offer, but there isn't much on offer nowadays. You know, it's pennies. It's you know, whichever way you look at it, it's going to cost you a lot of money to stay warm, along with eating things costs a lot of money nowadays compared with a few years ago. I mean, my bills, if I go back 3 years, which isn't that long really, my bills are now over half as much again. They're about 60% more than they were 3 years ago. And my income isn't 60% more. So I'm using up my savings at a greater rate than I would like. That just means I'll have to peg out earlier because I'll run out of money. But it is that is the practicality of it. I dip into my funds to top up my monthlies, and when that's gone I can't top up my monthlies anymore. At that point this place is not viable. I won't be able to afford it, so I'll have to get out and get some little one-room flat somewhere and probably give up most of the orchids. That's how it'll be. But if I peg out first, that's not my problem, is it? I'm not wishing it, you know, I'm not trying to hurry it up or anything, but we're all mortal at the end of the day. We're all going to peg out at some point. And, you know, you can't predict it necessarily, so it happens when it happens. My only hope is that I don't deteriorate to a sorry state, if you know what I mean, and become a burden to lots of people, and, you know, I don't want any of that. I just want to hit by a bus syndrome. There one day, gone the next. That'll do me. Thank you very much. Right, so yeah, that's a bit morbid, isn't it? I did sidetrack there, sorry about that. But it is a practicality that's on my mind. It doesn't play on my mind. It's not a stress thing, but it is a practicality. The pot has only got so much in it, and I'm drawing it out at a greater rate thanks to various things. And if those various things that we have talked about in the past, people poking their noses into other people's countries and trying to take them over, we've got another lot at it now, haven't we? And there is a threat that part of that conflict is going to take out one of the major oil suppliers. What do you think that's going to do to worldwide energy prices? And does that particular country give a monkeys? Absolutely not, because it doesn't matter who or whatever is said, they do exactly as they please. And if that puts up world prices, like the other lot a couple of years ago, then that's what will happen. And we'll all have to pay. Every single one of us that uses energy. Whether you put it in your car, use it to heat your home, street lamps, yeah, retail outlets, everywhere where energy is used, the prices will go up. So thanks for that, you know. I don't see them as any better than the last lot that had a go. They're all in the same boat, trying to take something that doesn't belong to them. Right, next. Mojo will be the next big deal. He is unfortunately starting to fade. He is losing weight. His appetite's still there at the moment and he's still mobile, but he is showing serious signs of his age. He's 20 and that's old for a cat. He's done very well. He's had a pretty trouble-free life as far as you know, vets are concerned. He has to go to the vet now to have his claws clipped because I can't do it. We still haven't evolved that third hand, have we? One to hold the cat, yeah, another one to hold the paw, and another one to hold the clippers. Oh, I haven't got three, I've only got two, so I can't do it. And Hannah's quite philosophical about it. She doesn't want to get involved because it will upset him. And she said she doesn't want Mojo getting upset with her. So she said, I'm not helping. So he has to go up the vets. And he's had his hair cut as well, along with me. People keep telling me, oh, you've had your hair cut. No, I haven't. I've had my ears lowered. It's a false impression. Hair's exactly the same as it was before. Now, Hannah went a bit overboard this time. It is a lot shorter than I normally have it. It just means I won't need it done until quite a long time now. Probably get out the other side of Christmas before it needs doing again. Right, things coming up. This coming Saturday is our show, Wessex Orchid Society. There's posters around in various places. On Wessex Facebook page, the poster's up. I think Burnham's have posted it. It's around. Somebody else will post it on my Facebook group. I don't need to do that. Somebody always does that for me, so don't need to worry about that. But yes, our show is coming up. It opens at 11, finishes at 4. Makes it an incredibly long day for me because I have to be there earlier than that to help set up. I will be taking some plants to go in the display, and as such I need to get there at a reasonable time so that the person or persons setting the display up has time to use the plants, or it's a waste of time taking them. It's not competitive this time, it's just a display, and it's not just an orchid display. It'll have tropical plants and various other things. The lady does a wonderful job. Captain, the one who's in charge sort of thing. She has helpers, but she says what's going where and how and all that sort of stuff, and it's very good. And we have nice homemade cakes and bacon rolls and homemade soup for lunch and all that sort of stuff. And it's a nice day out, but it's a long day. I mean, I'll probably be away from here 8 o'clock. I'll have had to load the car up. My plants I'll get ready the day before, obviously. I'm not doing that first thing in the morning. But yeah, I'll have to load the car up, leave here around 8, 8:15 to get there 9ish, 9:15, which gives me plenty of time to help with anything that's needed. Plus, I've got to set up the front desk. I'm treasurer, that's my bit. How do you do? Welcome. Give me 3 of your English pounds and you can go in, otherwise hold up there. Yeah, I'm in charge of who gets in and who doesn't. We've only had to withhold entry from one individual so far in all my time. But, That had trouble written all over it, that one. But yeah, it'll be it's a pleasant, easy-going show. It's non-competitive, so you know there'll be traders there. Lawrence Hobbs is there, Burnham's are there. Not sure whether Simon Pugh Jones is coming or not. I've forgotten basically. But there's some traders there, so you can get your bits and bobs. I'm hoping to get some new fertiliser from Peter White, Orchid Accessories. And I will have a think before I get it, because I decided to switch to Orchids rather than my MSU from the States, which came from a company called Greenacre, I think, but I paid to have it sent from the States. The postage cost twice as much as the fertiliser, but I looked at it like this. It was around £60 to get that sent, £20 for the fertiliser and 40 quid for the postage and for the shipping basically. And it sounds like an extortionate amount, but that has fed my orchids for 4 years. Now think about it. Ooh, that's only 15 quid a year. For 150 odd orchids, for a year, 15 quid, it's not expensive. You might sound it, and to charge 40 quid to, you know, stick something in a box and put it on a boat, does sound a lot of money, doesn't it? Because I don't think it flew over here. If it did, it must have gone the long way round because it took a long time. But yeah, so I was going to switch to Orchids, which is a version of the MSU mix, but it has a higher calcium and magnesium relationship with the NPK, which is good, and it also has added sulfur as a specific measurable amount, and sulfur is required. Most fertilizers don't even mention it because they use sulfates to get the other ingredients. It's inherent, yeah, but Orchids specifically mentions it. I always thought it was a little high, but it's there anyway. But I might go for, I'll go and get it because it's only just in there. And there's a reason behind this. I got this. This is Dendrobium. I think this actually comes from the States originally. I'm not sure, but it's liquid, so it doesn't go off, and it can't be affected by moisture. And if I get the Orchids rain mix, it's only got to get some moist air in the container, and it will start turning to mush, and eventually just a soggy mess in the bottom, and is unusable. And many people have said it's good stuff, but trying to keep it dry is almost impossible. If I get that, I don't have to worry. And this is a bloom version, so this is a 312-6. It's supposed to be a bloom booster, bloom pusher. It would be good if you grew apples and cherries and things, because it's good for producing fruit, it's good for producing seed. But that ratio is good for that sort of thing. I got that specifically for the Cymbidiums to try it out. But there's only one that's got a few spikes, as you saw in the previous video, so I'm not using it yet. That's what I got it for. There's a dozen or more different versions of this brand. They're all liquid, and there is a standard one that has a more sensible NPK relationship. Yeah, and if I get that, I don't ever have to worry about it going off. But I need to check that it's got all the micro elements and make sure it's got calcium and magnesium at a reasonable rate. If it's got calcium and magnesium but it's not in a sufficient ratio that I think, I might override it, and when I use it I'll add a bit of CalMag, and that just bumps up those two elements. It bumps up, what else is in there, my CalMag? It's got a tiny bit of nitrogen in it, and it's also got iron, so it bumps up that as well. But if I get the Dendrobium, Peter White sells all the different versions of that. If I get that as a standard feed, then I don't have to worry about it going off. And I don't have to worry about, you know, only opening the lid for seconds to try and keep the moisture out, which is almost impossible. I mean, with my MSU, I decant an amount out of the main container into a smaller container, and that stays relatively dry. But I did notice the last time I topped up my daily use one, when I opened the main container, there was a lump, so moisture's got in there. And as I said, I've had that 4+ years now. I doubt if that's stable over that length of time, quite honestly. So goodness knows what the orchids are getting. Something, but who knows what. You've got granules or powder and you start getting moisture in there, the chemical makeup can start to change if it's left in that state. So go steady with that sort of thing. But if I switch to a liquid form, as I said, it was, I mean, that little container there is 10 quid, 9.99, so penny change out of a tenner. And it's a balanced feed at the level supposedly to help boost blooms, get better colours, all that sort of thing. That's what it's supposed to do. We may find out, we may not. Trouble is, to be able to see if it makes a difference, you've got to remember what it was like before, haven't you? Well, luckily, all of the Cymbidiums bloomed, and when they bloomed, I took photos. Now, I might not have taken photos of the whole spike, I probably took a close-up, but that at least gives us the colour balance and everything, and some of them I may have taken a full spike, I don't know. But that's the only thing I've got to compare. My memory's not that good that I can remember exactly what a bloom looked like a year ago. No way. Job to remember what happened yesterday, let alone a year ago. Yes, so we will be having a think about that. I've got till Saturday. If I want to pick up some more fertiliser without paying postage, I need to have made my mind up before Saturday. And then it'll be under my nose. I can buy it and stick it in my pocket, bring it home, no postage and packing and everything. And that is the last orchid show that I will see Peter White at. So I need to have a look round and see my media as well. I think I need some more medium bark. And again, I won't see him again till the spring. Now, okay, I won't be doing much repotting till the spring, so I could probably wait. But again, I need to think about all these things and, if necessary, get some while it's under my nose on Saturday. And I like to get my stuff mainly from Peter White. Otherwise, if people don't use him, he'll close, and then that business is gone. You know, he's already past retirement age, well past. And he was actually training somebody up to take over the business, but the silly young lady went and got pregnant and got married and pregnant and didn't want to do it in the end after all the training and everything. It was a pity actually, because she was good fun. She'd have made a good retail person to deal with, if you know what I mean. But that fell apart. I don't think there are any other volunteers to take it on. So, you know, what puts a lot of people off with stuff like that is the travel. You know, the different shows all over the country, you've got to get there, and then at the end of the day when you're cream crackered, you've got to get home again. Or you pay a fortune to stop overnight and go the next day, which if it was a very profitable business, it would be worth doing, because then you get up in the morning, have a nice breakfast and start your journey fresh. Yeah, it would be nice. But you get like Arthur at Burnham's, you know, I mean, I don't know whether it was last weekend or the weekend before, did 2 shows in a weekend. So, you know, he's got to get in there at the crack of dawn on Saturday morning. I think the van gets loaded up the night before, I'm not sure, because they bring the van inside the nursery. They've actually got like double doors on the side of the nursery and it backs into the work area. So it is inside, it's not exposed to outside temperatures sort of thing. Which could be both. It could be cold, it could also be in the sunshine and get too hot. But anyway, he sets off at the crack of dawn to do a long journey, then he's got to work all day long, pack it all up, get it in the van and go somewhere else. Stop overnight, do another day's work and then drive back from there. It's a flipping long weekend. And it worries me because when Arthur retires, they're not going to get anybody else to do that, I don't think. And that might, you know, without the shows, could Burnham still exist as a business? Probably. because it does an awful lot of its trade online now. It does do a lot of online business, which is reasonably profitable, so maybe they could keep going, I don't know. But, you know, if they can't get to the shows, they'll be sorely missed. You know, it's one of the main retailers of orchids in this country, so, you know, that's willing to go to the shows. So we shall see. Time will tell, but I don't know whether Lynn's going to want to come. I will ask, it's up to her. I know she's got dog troubles again. She's got a very poorly dog that comes and goes but still hanging in there, sort of thing. She was at the Bournemouth show last week when I went, and she said she wasn't going because she was on holiday, but the holiday got cancelled because of dog troubles. So the dog decided they weren't going to have a holiday. So, you know, she might not want to come, but we've got our show this weekend. The following weekend, it's Devon Orchid Society's autumn show, and I think Bournemouth Orchid Society, definitely South West Orchid Society and Cornwall Orchid Society will be there with the Devon Orchid Society, and it's held at Burnham's. They take over the Orchid Paradise place, and there'll be some other traders there, I expect. It's a nice day out. I will be going definitely. I do believe it's on the Sunday, so you won't get a Sunday chat, but then you'll get some videos from, you know, the various displays and things in the following week. But yeah, it's I will definitely be going. There's not much going to stop me apart from atrocious weather. And that's not for being there, that's for the drive. You know, it's it really takes the edge off a day if the weather's really bad and you've got to drive in it. You know, you're on your nerve ends all the time when the weather's bad, because you not only got to deal with the other idiots on the road, and that's my attitude to driving. Everybody on the road's an idiot. And if you keep that in the back of your mind, you'll probably be a little cautious, and you'll probably be relatively safe, because you're alert. You know, you think you're constantly thinking, now what's that clown gonna do? And I don't know, you call it a sixth sense, you call it what you like, but I have something inbuilt that actually looks at a car and thinks, you're going to do something stupid any minute now. Now, how can you know? But there is something about the way the car's moving, or something you just sort of think, yeah, you're going to do something daft, and then they just, you know, they just turn across the road or something stupid. But yeah, bad weather might put me off, but apart from that, I shall be going, and I shall have a nice day out. I shall stop for my nice breakfast where I normally do, and Lynn may well join me because she takes advantage of not having to drive. That, well, if she had to drive, she wouldn't go. So that'll be coming up for the following weekend after our show. Yeah, that's about it, I think. Enough waffle. It's about time we looked at some orchids and did some waffle about those. So I'll close down and I'll come back when I've got the noblies, because they're effectively right at the back of this shelf. So a lot of stuff's got to come off of this shelf to be able to get at them and bring them out so that we can look at them individually and well, as a set and then individually. So I'll get on and do that, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye for now, and I'll be back. Okay, this is my set. I've got my turntable out again. It allows me to turn a plant round while holding the camera, because I can do it one-handed. So it does sort of do the job. Meant to be for bonsai really, but it works well. So this is my set. We'll have a chat about the first one, because the first one is behaving and is typical. Some of the others are not. Nobly hybrids do tend to play around, and they will mess you around and not do as they're supposed to do. This one, however, is doing exactly as it's supposed to do. This is my prima donna. Had this plant a very long time in various guises, because this is a division of a division that goes back a long way. I think I got that plant in, well, it's probably more than 10 years ago. It actually came from, I think it came from Orchid Man, who was a seller in the Netherlands, private seller, private collector. And I got a lot of my plants from there. You can't get this now, unless you can find somebody who's got one that's prepared to split it, or a kiki. Then Dendrobium prima donna is virtually non-existent. It was a cross that was done a long time ago, you know, so that's what happens, is they don't exactly go out of fashion, but people produce new ones that might be perhaps a little better, yeah? So the other ones fade away. Right. A typical nobile that you've had a while. This won't be one you've just bought. One you've just bought will probably have 2 canes on it, one in full bloom, one about 2/3 of the size of that with some blooms on, and a little stubby one at the bottom that may well have been chopped off. That's what a lot of the mass-produced ones look like when you buy them. However, when you've had them a while, they start looking and behaving more like the plant should do. And that's what this one's doing. So we have some older canes that are leafless. One here, 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 another one here, and another one here. So that is 5 leafless canes. We have one over here that will be leafless very soon. It's due in autumn. That's the previous year's growth. So that's last year's cane. This one here has still got some green leaves, but they're starting to fade. This again is last year's growth. Yeah, and that's exactly what they should be doing. They take a year to grow, they keep their leaves through the winter and the following summer, and then at some point after that they will drop their leaves. I say some point after that because some hold their leaves longer than that. And then this year I've grown this cane here, which is still growing. Yeah, it's still pushing up a new leaf. And this, the largest cane on the plant at the moment over here, that's this year's growth as well. And what's that in there? We got a little visitor in there, and that one is still growing as well. So this one is doing probably exactly what it ought to do. In my environment, with the day lengths and the growing season that I've got, these canes started growing late. Yeah, now under normal circumstances they should be thinking about coming to a close, but they're not. They've both got a new leaf just starting. Yeah, that may well be their last leaf, because a nobile gets to the end of the season and it signifies that it's finished growing for the year by producing a terminal leaf. And I'm lucky because I have one of last year's canes, so you can see what a terminal leaf is. It normally is more upright and doesn't stick out so much to the sides and is smaller. And there is no sign of another one in the joint. That's your last leaf. That cane will never grow anything else, but hopefully it will bloom. Right, so coming to this time of year, nobiles should be slowing up and thinking about going into some form of winter rest. Now we're talking hybrids. The winter rest that they could do with to get the best blooming is slow them down. Yeah, now if they're still growing, don't stop feeding yet. Yeah, still give them some food, not as strong as the full growing season because they won't be growing as fast. They can probably go virtually dry in between waterings for now. And what you're looking for is the end of growth for the year. Now that can happen any time from now until the end of December, depending on what your plant's up to. But if you are subject to English day lengths and natural daylight in any shape or form, your plants will stop growing when those day lengths get too short. To accompany that, it would be good if you can cool them down. So they would prefer to go somewhere much cooler than the temperatures they had day and night during the growing season. Now, you're the only one that knows what those are. Now, I can't tell you what temperatures you've had. Yeah? I mean, you could have been up in the low 30s in the daytimes. I don't know. You might have only been up 25, 26, you know. But whatever, most orchids do well if the night temperature is 4 or 5 degrees C less than the day temperatures. Now, have a think about what your growing conditions have been to have got to this point in the year, and think about how you're going to change that. How are you going to cool that plant down and still achieve that temperature range? Now, ideally, 12 to 13 degrees night temperatures for a nobile that's resting is brilliant, if you can do it. But don't forget, you will need to bring the temperature up a bit during the day. Yeah? 3 to 4, 4 to 5 degrees C difference between day and night. But if you can cool them down like that, and at the same time put them in the brightest place you've got, and that can include a sunny window. Just watch this October time, because the sun can still be relatively strong. On a clear day, through the glass, the sun can still be quite strong. So go steady for now. But ideally, once you get into November sort of thing, brightest place you can put them, with a cool down, they should bloom nicely. And you can do all that if your plant is in a state that I've just described. In other words, it's finished growing for the year. Now you're going to get some awkward ones. Let's have a look at some. So we'll get that one out of the way. You can go back over there for now. And we'll get the next one across. Let's get the big one out, because this one is just misbehaving all over the place. Now this is Sweet Pinky Momoko. It's a hybrid with the most massive blooms. They are huge, and as a consequence I put up with its untidiness and its nonsense, because when the blooms come they are stunning. Now what's this plant doing then? Well, it's got some leafless canes that are a bit manky, and we've got some stubs. Now where there are stubs, it has bloomed. Yeah? It's also doing kikis, and it's doing lots of them. And those are going to go to the show with me on Saturday, because I don't want them. I know one person who will have some, and they might take the lot off of me and just have one giant pot full. As I said, the blooms are stunning. But it's doing kikis. I mean, this cane over here has got 2 large kikis. Strictly speaking, this kiki's not ready to take off yet because it hasn't got open leaves. A kiki will do well if it's got open leaves and some decent roots. And it pays to take them off before the roots are too long. Lovely job. Yeah? Open leaves, good root system. Open leaves, good root system. Most of these are fine. What else is the plant doing then? Well, it's got some leafless canes that have bloomed in the past. It's growing some kikis on leafless canes, as well as canes with a few leaves left, like this one over here. And if you look at the plant, there aren't many canes with leaves on. Yeah? We've got one over here. That's an old cane that's still got some leaves. We've got this one here, which has finished growing and has still got all of its leaves, but it looks like it might be going to drop them soon. It's got a new cane here, which is nowhere near up to full size and is still growing, and it's started another one. So what am I supposed to do with that then? Well, if I rest it, if I withhold feed and most of the water, then this is going to stall, and that probably won't grow. And that's the following year's blooms gone then. So this is a misbehaving nobile type, and I'm going to have to carry on watering and feeding this. Reduced, yes, because it'll slow down, but I've got to try and keep these 2 canes growing, because otherwise, you know, they'll be lost, and that's a set of blooms that'll be lost as well. Now, while this one's chucking out kikis, like it is, going out of fashion, it's unlikely to produce any blooms. And if somebody can give me a definitive answer as to why a plant that's bloomed happily suddenly decides to chuck out kikis, I'd appreciate it, because I've never found anybody that's given me a satisfactory answer yet. But this is producing kikis on a cane that has bloomed. This cane has bloomed quite nicely down to here. And now below that, it's produced 2 kikis. Same over here. This cane over here has bloomed down on the joints. The blooms come out on the opposite side of a leaf joint. Yeah? That's where the blooms come from. And once there's been a bloom in that position, it'll never bloom again in that position. But canes can bloom over 2 seasons. They'll often bloom at the top first, and then the following season they'll bloom on a couple of joints a bit lower down. Some do that, some don't. As I said, these are hybrids. They've had all sorts of nonsense done to them in the hybridizing programs, and they end up, you know, their DNA's a bit mixed up. So that's a misbehaving one. We may possibly have a single bloom bud there on that joint. There is a swelling there, and it looks like the kikis it's going to grow, it's already done. So any other type of swelling that appears might well be a bloom. But there aren't many places where this one can bloom. We've got this cane over here, which is where I've just shown you that nodule, and we've got this cane here. Those 2 haven't bloomed yet. All the others have bloomed probably in all the places, and the places that may have bloomed this time round have now grown kikis instead. So that is misbehaving. There's nothing I can do about it. That's how it is. Let's just get that out of the way. Oh, I'll sort out the trays later. I just need the room basically, that's all. So I'll just pop that over there. Now we're down to smaller ones anyway. Right, this is the nobile kiki that I was on about, that's come from Lynn. That hasn't produced a new growth yet. So that's probably, yep, it's finished growing, terminal leaf. That's going to do nothing now until next year. So providing it survives the winter, it's got some roots. There's roots down in the moss there, and they've travelled across and come out the moss the other side, so they're a reasonable size. Providing that survives the winter, that will start growing again in the next growing season, and at the end of that growing season, if it only grows 1 new growth, I'll probably keep that growing. But this one will have reduced watering and no feed, but not strictly speaking a proper rest, although there is no point in doing much with it because it's finished growing, there's no new growths. So keeping that alive is all that's required. So it needs some water, but not much, and it doesn't need any feed at all because it's not growing. So that's that one. Right, these are, well, let's do the mother plant first. This plant here grows kikis as well. Now this is an unidentified hybrid, so it's got no name, but again it has absolutely massive blooms. Now we've got old canes that have bloomed, so this one we've got tall skinny canes, shorter fat canes, even shorter relatively fat canes, and then we've got 3 that have still got leaves. So we've got 3 without leaves and 3 with. This is an old cane, and this is an old cane, and why they've got no top to them is because something ate them. It ate into the cane such that the cane keeled over, and it happened on 2 of the canes. You can see the hole where that one dug in. I never found out what did it, but whatever it was, it destroyed the tops of these 2 canes. That doesn't mean to say they won't bloom. And then over this side we've got this year's growth. So this is this year's cane over here with the nice shiny leaves, and that may well be its terminal leaf. Let me just have a quick look. No, if you look very carefully down in the base of that leaf, there is another leaf forming. So this cane is still growing, therefore it still needs some feed. What do we think that is then? That looks remarkably like the start of another cane. as we go into the rest period. So yet again, I shall probably have to keep this one going. The only sign of life on the older canes is that. Whether that's going to be a kiki or a bud or just stall, I don't know. Looks like the start of a flower spike to me. Nobiles still produce a spike. They're not traditional spikes like you would think of on an oncidium type, but it is a spike nonetheless. And they can have 1, 2, probably as many as 4. Normally 1 or 2. Healthy plant, strong plant, 3. If you get 4 buds on a spike from a single node like that, you're doing really well. Not many do that. But again, there's loads of different types of hybrids. So this one's got no name, and it's grown a reasonable cane this year. That will bloom next year. It might bloom this spring coming round. Who knows? This one does odd things. So that's that one. And then this pot full is the last lot of kikis that were taken off that plant. And they were absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. They've grown on. One of them has grown a new growth from the base here. That's still growing. The others have finished. They've all got their terminal leaves, or no leaf at all in this case over here. So this pot full's finished. It's done what it's going to do. It has a single kiki over here that can't be taken off because it has no roots. That would either stall for as much as a year or more, or not make it at all. It needs roots. And if it doesn't grow roots, it'll just stay on that cane and I'll leave it there. It can grow on there. We have nodules on this cane here and here. Those are highly likely to be blooms. So that's blooms on a kiki that hasn't even grown a new growth from the base, and it looks like it's going to bloom. Again here, there's a nodule there pushing out. That may well be a bloom spike starting, one in the making. Who knows? So this one has produced kikis. These are they. So they may bloom. They may produce more kikis. Who knows? So my only nobile that's behaving itself at the moment is my prima donna. Named variety that's been around an awful long time. And as such, I would say it was probably hybridized in a more traditional manner without adding in any oddities. So, you know, and yellow nobiles are thin on the ground. So prima donna to me is a bit special. There are other yellow nobile hybrids. So they are around, but they're thin on the ground. Most of them look a bit like the actual species. They have pinks and a purple in the lip and some white, various things. But you'll have seen the pictures of these. That, as I say, they've all bloomed. So I'll have done pop-ups so you can see what I've got. And those are they. The chances of me getting any more nobiles are slim, unless I see one I really, really like. And it would probably have to be a bit unusual as well. But who knows, you know, I might spot one that I fancy. There's a lot for sale in bloom at this point in time. They've been forced. This is not, in the northern hemisphere, the time of year that nobile should be blooming. They bloom late winter into spring. That's their proper time. So ones that are in full bloom now have been forced. They've been artificially lit and fed, and they've probably had growth hormones and various other trade secrets added to force them into bloom. There's also tricks with temperature you can play. You can get one growing really mad and then suddenly drop its temperature down, and you might induce a load of blooms. Some say that the growth restrictors, to stop them growing too big, actually con it into blooming as well. So there's all sorts of tricks that the trade do, and those tricks have been applied to any nobile you buy in the northern hemisphere that's currently in bloom, because they shouldn't be. and you will have to wait for it to probably settle down and bloom at the normal time, which normally means the normal time the following year after you buy it in the autumn or early winter, it won't bloom at all. It'll probably start growing its next lot of canes at the wrong time of year. And if it starts growing its canes in the middle of winter, they probably won't grow very well because they won't have the light. So, you know, it's they're not a risk. They're still a sound buy. They're still good bloomers. They're still good plants. But just bear in mind that a lot of them have had growth restrictors, and they might grow half as big again or even twice as big than the one you bought. Bear that in mind. Some of them are over 1 metre tall at their full height. So, but they are mainly upright growing dendrobiums. They will arch over. They can be mounted and hang down, but in normal circumstances they tend to have quite rigid canes that grow upright. That's how they like to be. Right, so that's it for today. Probably ended up being quite a long one, but most people seem to like the long one on a Sunday, and I don't mind doing it. So there we go. What I'm going to video next week, I have no idea at the moment. We will have everything in bloom on the 8th, which is, I believe, in a couple of days' time. So that's one video we will definitely have. And the other one I've said I'll do is to have a closer look at my cotyledons, because that's quite a large group of plants now. So we'll have a closer look at them and see what's spiking or in bud, or in one case in bloom. And we'll go from there. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Oh, I will add it on the end. Thanks for all the people supporting the channel. Yeah, it is appreciated. That's a global thank you for all the support in all its forms, be it financial, you know the types, the links are in the description. And for those who regularly watch, do a like, the old thumbs up, and leave a comment. All these things help the channel grow. And yes, it's growing, but it is slow progress. And I don't think there's anything I can do to change that. Yeah, that's how it is. I can't suddenly become a very attractive 20-year-old young lady, can I? Because that helps, apparently. Yeah, being a grouchy old git don't seem to help so much, but we are what we are. Anyway, thanks for all your support. It is appreciated, and you know, it's good stuff. It keeps the channel growing slowly but surely, which is all I can ask for. And I will see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.